Colonel Gallagher, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule for this interview. We only ask that you keep your responses under 4 minutes in length for purposes of time.
Okay, deal.
What do you value most out of your position as Commandant of Cadets?
To me, the job of Commandant of Cadets is very similar to command in the Army. And command in the Army is a sacred responsibility. It's a burden of responsibility on your shoulders to both, to do two things primarily, to accomplish the mission and to take care of the people within your unit. And so that translates directly over to the responsibilities of the Commandant. I have a mission to accomplish, which is to plan and execute the military model, the lifestyle that we have on this campus that's underneath this umbrella of a military model, to plan and execute that, and to get that mission done, and to take care of each one of the cadets and students that are under my responsibility on this campus. So in that regard, even though we're not going to deploy anywhere like we would in the military, the responsibilities between being the Commandant and being a commander in the Army are quite similar. And that's what I find very professionally and personally rewarding about this job.
Thank you.
What's your opinion on the relations between the academy and college?
Well, I think we have a very diverse population on this campus. And, currently we go from 7th grade up through sophomore in college. The age ranges even extend beyond that because we have some older college cadets that aren't the traditional ages. And then, as you may know, we have a scholars program right now on the campus of active duty military officers from foreign country. And so that extends the age up even beyond that. So it's a very diverse population. They come from many different states and many different countries as well. And they bring with them their background, their experiences, their individual cultures, and in some cases language differences. And we all come on this 100-acre campus of Valley Forge, which is a very close, somewhat confined campus of only 100 acres. So there's always going to be room for improvement, I think, in terms of how we work together and in terms of how we live together and cooperate together. We have 2 separate and distinct entities on the campus, the college and the academy, by Middle States decree, are separate and distinct organizations. But as you know, there is quite a bit of overlap and a lot of shared services such as the library, the mess hall, the gym that we have on the campus. So I think there's a couple guiding principles that we have to be aware of. I think one, we ought to see ourselves as one corps, that we're one corps of cadets, even though we have 2 distinct and separate schools. And so therefore we have one governing set of regulations, we have one governing set of behavior standards that apply to the Corps of Cadets. And to be able to say that you graduated from the Corps of Cadets of Valley Forge has always been and needs to remain a very prestigious event in a person's life. And so we have to guard that. That's a very, very important aspect of our life that we all have a role in safeguarding. But also as a part of that, I think there's an awful lot that can be learned by all of this by a healthy, productive exchange of ideas and interaction. And I think we can do better in some of those areas. So for example, I think that college cadets can be exceptional role models for younger academy cadets. I know if I were on a campus when I was 13, 14, and 15 with superior college level athletes and students and those heading off to very prestigious colleges afterwards and those with already have accomplishments and some with active duty military behind them, I would see that as a real resource for me to try to learn from them. And so I think there's a huge potential for our own growth and development and learning by continued and better interaction. So I encourage us all that when you're walking off to class, and if you're in the academy and there's a college cadet walking along there, go talk to him or her. Vice versa, if a college cadet's headed to class or headed to the mess hall or in the library, spend a few minutes and talk to them and find out about their experiences. And let's share our life experiences a little bit more with each other. Now, in some organizations in the Corps, that happens more automatically. We have a mix of college and academy in some of our units, and that's great. But I think more is better, and I think that a better integration between the 2 groups on campus is a healthy thing. But from Middle State's perspective, We also have to protect the idea that the college is a separate educational institution and that the academy is a separate educational institution. They are accredited separately, and so we have to keep that in mind as well.
Thank you, sir.
Are you content with the residential program?
Well, the residential program was a new program this past semester, and any new program that starts up, no matter where it is going to have to grow to a point where you're completely satisfied with it. So no, I'm not completely satisfied with where it is right now. And there are some improvements that need to be made. And so we had some good lessons learned from our experience during the first semester, and we're applying them now this semester. And we've gotten all the students together within the first few days of when they returned after Christmas, the holiday break. And Dean Zachary and I from the college laid out, I think in very specific terms, what our expectations are for success in that program. And so I think there is a straightforward methodology to use as a leader when you're trying to improve performance standards across the board. You clearly define what your expectations are, you inspect, and then you hold people accountable. And that's what we discussed with all the residential students. And so, you know, I'm looking for an improved semester this semester over last semester in several different areas. So no, I'm not satisfied with where it is right now, but I'm also not satisfied with where the core is right now as well. And across the board, I think we can improve our performance in many areas, all of us here at this campus.
I'd like you to please comment on any sustains you have about the residential program or any improvements.
Sure, okay, sustains. I think the majority of the residential students are very, very hardworking. They are very busy individuals. Many of them hold down jobs to support families and themselves when they're not on campus here. And I think their athletic performance speaks for itself. They dominated in just about every sport they fielded a team in during the fall semester. So I'm very proud of them for that. And so those are sustains. There are many of them who are doing very, very well in the classroom, and I'm very proud of their performance too. I'm very proud of the college faculty and the dedication and the hard work they put into the first semester in addressing the academic needs of all the residential students, as well as the cadets too, because we have a wide band of academic capability in the college population. And the college faculty have to be flexible to be able to adjust and address everybody in that population. I'm also very proud, and the sustain is a system that we implemented last semester called the Student Success Council. And everyone on this campus should be aware of what that is. The Student Success Council is chaired by Dean Zachary. And the Student Success Council primarily focuses on college cadets and students right now. And when a college cadet or student begins to have difficulty in academics, in disciplinary issues, or other personal issues that might be going on in his or her life, that is made known to this council, and they bring in experts from around the campus to address whatever those issues are. So the council meets to discuss just one individual case each time. So last semester, the council met dozens of times to discuss that many individuals. And the results are very clear. And the output from that council is a development plan for that individual. And so the results are very clear. From those college cadets and students that followed their development plan, 100% of them improved their GPA. From those college cadets and students that chose not to follow their development plan, 100% of them went down in their GPA. And so, but there's a message and a lesson there for all of us, and that is if we work with the faculty and we apply ourselves, the potential to do superbly at Valley Forge is extremely high. And those who don't perform well academically, in many cases, it's because they didn't put the work into it. So I'm very proud of the Student Success Council. Things that I think we need to improve in is the noise level in the college community, both in the core and in the residential student program. I think the noise in the barracks and the music, things like that, are too loud. I think there's room for improvement in courtesy and consideration for others. And I absolutely think we need to improve on our language, and that is we need to eliminate profanity on this campus. And that applies far beyond just residential students. That's across the board. And I am embarking on a mission to improve the way we speak to each other. And I want to eliminate profanity on this campus. I need everybody's assistance and support in order to do that. And so those are some things I think we need to improve in.
Thank you, sir.
So the first few words of the school mission are to educate cadets within the academic and military environment. Do you think that needs revision, since it doesn't apply to 100% of the school?
Of the military environment part of it.
Yes, sir.
Well, this is an interesting question. And so, first of all, a mission change is an extensive undertaking, okay, that requires, that's not just one person's decision. To change the mission of an organization, at least an organization, requires a good bit of study. It requires proper notification with middle states. It requires gaining input from all the stakeholders. By stakeholders, I mean parents, alumni. It certainly requires the approval of our board of trustees. And so a simple word change in the mission statement is an extensive undertaking that takes a good bit of time to do. And so there's debate on this issue about the military environment. I believe that the military environment still exists. Now, we have a civilian component of students who operate here, but they're operating within the context of a military academy and college. And that is one of the major lessons. As you may know, most of the other military colleges in the United States, if not all, outside the Federal Service Academy, have gone to introducing some sort of a civilian component. And one of the major lessons they learned, I'll use Norwich as an example, that the identity of the place still has to remain a military one. That when you go to Norwich, it's very clear that you might be a civilian student, but you're attending a military academy. And the diploma will always say Valley Forge Military College or Valley Forge Military Academy, no matter what. And so the debate there for the mission statement is, and I believe, my view is that this is still, our identity is still very strongly a military academy and college. There's a military model that guides behavior on this campus, and that regardless of the types of students we have come here and cadets, excuse me, I'll turn this on, that the military model will still be here. So there is some discussion and debate to be had about the wording of, and should the wording of the mission statement change, given the fact we have a residential and commuter student program now in the college. So there's a lot to be discussed and debated on that now, and it may or may not change. I don't know, but I will say this: that to change even a few words in the mission statement is a major undertaking for any organization, and it would certainly be for us. And ultimately, we have to then go back to middle states and notify them and support, all with justification why we're changing mission.
What path do you think the state of this school is going in?
Well, I think we're on a very solid path right now. I think we're expanding in a lot of programs. I mean, if you look at the results of what the graduates did from the academy last year, almost every one of them went on to a four-year college or a college of their choice. From the college, about 99% of those that graduated went on to a four-year bachelor's degree program. And by anybody's definition and analysis, we have an extremely strong athletic program on this campus now. So these are the kind of things that attract people who want to come here. And that's what we see from the people that want to come here. We have a very strong and supportive alumni organization, and we have a supportive board. And so all the raw material is here to continue this place on indefinitely forever as a strong, permanent institution in this part of the country. There's risks in any organization, in any business, okay? And so there's risk to us as well. We get risk from our competitors and from other competition. We're around a lot of other small colleges in this area. So that presents, from competition, that presents a risk. There are some 80 military academies in the country, and each one of those is a competitor of ours. So we have to keep an eye on what they're doing, what they're charging for tuition, what programs they're providing, and keep an eye on them as if this were a business, and what's the competition doing to stay one step ahead. So you always have to manage risk, and any organization worth its salt is going to spend time and actually have people dedicated, as we do here, to assessing where our risks are and trying to manage those. But assuming that we continue to have high quality staff and faculty working here doing that kind of thing, I'm very optimistic about this place. And to me, though, the greatest strength is you all and people just like you. It's the great young people that choose to come here. And as long as we're accomplishing our mission as we always have and always will, if I have anything to do it, we'll be fine.
As there are integrated battalions with college and academy together,
Right.
there's a lot of generated college bias on the academy. I just would like to hear a comment about that.
Well, any kind of bias in the organization is never good. And so if we have bias, we need to address it. And that's the kind of thing I would rely on suggestions from the Corps on how to address that. I am certainly open, and I think it's healthy to have more academy representation at various levels in the chain of command. And we're looking at doing that for next year, but I'm certainly open to suggestions on that, because I would appreciate feedback on how, how those who have to live with that would see it best run. And so if there is a perceived bias against any particular group in an organization, the first thing you want to do is try to get to ground truth. And so you want to hear all sides of the story. And I believe that in life, there are always at least two sides to every story. And so while one person might see bias, somebody else may not. And so you as the leader have to get all those out on the table and try to sort it out to figure out what's actually happening. And if you find there is bias in an organization, you got to do something about it. And most of the time, bias is related to poor communication. And where people have perceived feelings that things are not fair, they're inequitable, there's one group being treated differently than another, that leads to this perception of bias. And oftentimes that's tied to communication. So I would be appreciative of hearing where we think the bias is exactly and what we can do about it. Because the cadets in the Corps know the Corps as well as anybody. And if they feel there's bias in the Corps, okay, what are some proposed solutions? So there's also another lesson I would like to try to teach here as well. And that is, as a leader, you never want to just simply say, here's a problem, boss, your problem, fix it. No. Whenever you identify a problem as a leader, and you identify a problem in the organization, you should always come up with a recommended solution. Say, here's a problem that we've identified, and here are 3 possible solutions you may want to consider. We recommend this one. That is a great way to handle trying to address problems in an organization. So to apply that to this example, if there are cadet leaders who feel there's a bias towards the college in the organization, then let's get the facts on that. Let's present it and say, don't just present it and dump the problem on the table and say, okay, what are you going to do to fix it, Commandant? Say, here's a problem we've identified, and here's 2 or 3 solutions that we think might fix it. And here's the one we recommend is what we think is the best one. And then whoever the decision maker is takes a look at that and says, you know what, you're right, let's do that. Or no, I don't think we're going to do that. But that's the road to fixing a problem like that. So identifying the fact that there's bias is a potentially very good first step. But the next step would be to present that with some factual observations of why you feel that way, and then some recommendations on how to fix it. And I'm happy to meet with anybody to go down that road if you want to.
There's been an abundance of officer positions within the Corps, and especially regimental. And I was wondering, will these be open for Academy cadets to hold as future positions and not lock into ECP?
Right. So next year, I think, yes. And I'm open to suggestions of specifically how to do that. And I'll throw a couple specific questions back at you. Will it work to have a commander at one level who is up to a couple years younger, or maybe in the academy, than a commander below that person? So you have an older person down here, but the dilemma we have is the younger person by age may have more time at Valley Forge than the older person by age. And so those are dilemmas that we have to work out. There's no easy answer there. Some people feel because they've been at Valley Forge for a number of years, they know this place inside and out, and they're a good leader, and therefore they deserve to be in a very senior position. I don't disagree with that. But there is a dilemma of the dynamics of teenagers, where age is a very sensitive issue sometimes. And some people see seniority tied to age as much as other things. So that's something that Valley Forge wrestles with when we have one Corps that spans this fairly wide age group. So I'm open to ideas on that. And I am open to having academy cadets and college cadets at various positions up and down the chain of command. I've also got to be confident that we can all work together once in those positions to do that. So, yeah, I'm open to all that. Now, for this particular semester, we got what we got. We'll learn lessons from it, and we'll move forward, you know, for the future Corps. And what we should do is have a good after-action review as we get towards the end of the semester and look back on the whole year. And certainly, if you know me well enough, you'll know that the group I'll turn to will be the commanders to give me their input. And I'll meet with commanders because I put commanders in a special position in an organization. And I'll meet with commanders and say, okay, let's go over this year. What worked, what didn't work. If you were going to be here next year, what would you do differently? Things like that. So, but now here's another thing. I believe that if we have as one of our cornerstones leadership development, I believe we owe it to as many cadets as possible, ideally everybody, that they get a hands-on leadership position during their tenure here at Valley Forge. Some cadets are here for 6 years, so that's plenty of opportunities along the way where they can get hands-on leadership experience. Other cadets are here for 1 or 2 years, particularly in college. But I feel an equal responsibility because that same cornerstone applies to them, to get them into a leadership position. And so many of the other major academies do in fact rotate positions at the semester so they can spread the wealth around and get more people hands-on experience. What that does is it degrades the performance of that unit for some period of time as a new group of leaders comes on board, and you're not operating perhaps as efficiently or as effectively as you might have been before you made the change. But on the other hand, we're not about to deploy anybody here to Iraq anytime soon. So we can afford to have a slippage in performance for a period if the benefit is we're getting more people into leadership positions. I would not like it if we're graduating people from Valley Forge that have never had hands-on leadership experience. That's not right. And so I think a priority has to be is to get as many people in a hands-on job as possible. And that means some people will not be happy with the choices they get, some people will not be satisfied with the positions, and some people who may not necessarily have great leadership ability will be put into leadership positions because this is it's a laboratory, it's a teaching place for leaders. And to say, no, you're not a very good leader, I'm not going to give you a leadership position, to me is the opposite of what we're trying to do. So.
All right, thank you, sir. Can you please comment on your previous decisions on repeat offenders of drugs and alcohol, and
Yes.
which goes strongly against our school policies?
Well, our school policy is that we treat offenses on a case-by-case basis. And one thing that we have to look at is, there's several variables really. So if somebody has a substance abuse problem, is it an addiction problem that can be treated? And if so, are they serious about improving and getting the treatment to improve, and how dedicated are they to doing that? That factors in. Or do they not care at all? It factors into whether it was a one-time use or it's been a long-time habit for them. It factors into whether they were distributing it to other people or if they just used it away from campus. It factors into if they brought it onto campus or not. To some degree, it factors in if their parents get involved and give an opinion on what ought to be done. So there's all these other variables that play into it. I think probably the most important variable is what is the individual's commitment to changing that behavior. And if they are motivated and willing and interested in getting the help they need, if they have an addiction problem, and if they are absolutely committed to never doing it again, in those cases, in a one-time offense, then I'll give them a second chance in many cases. But I'll always listen to the chain of command recommendation as well. If they don't care, or they're not committed, or they have repeat offenses, or things like this after the first time, into the second time or beyond, then that's a problem we're not set up to deal with. And if somebody has a serious addiction problem, we're just not resourced to help that person here at Valley Forge. And that's really very similar to the way the U.S. military operates with it. It's not a one-time offense in the military and you're out of the military. This is a developmental institution. Yes, we have standards, absolutely. But we are also a developmental institution where we try to coach, teach, mentor, guide, counsel young people to doing what's right. And if they show the repeated inability or the unwillingness to do what's right, then they should go to school someplace else, either by their choice or by our choice. If, however, they are willing to commit to changing their behavior, and they prove that with their performance, and we change a life in the process, then that's kind of our mission as well. So it's got to be, I believe, it's got to be a case-by-case decision, and you weigh all those complicated factors involved, and you do what you think is right. But none of us here, let me be clear, none of us here says, yeah, I'm fine with drug offenses. No, not at all. It's illegal here and wrong, and leaders don't do that. So none of us here are okay with that. The question is, and this is where as a leader you have to kind of look in your crystal ball. None of us are okay with that behavior. And the fact that we're doing something about it at all says we don't tolerate it. But what you have to do as a leader is to somehow look in a crystal ball and try to see the future of this person. And that's where you have to use your knowledge of people, your common sense, read what you think this person has in mind, and then make the call that you think will be best for that person as well as the institution. And if as a senior leader, if your intuition tells you that this person is committed, and they have the support structures to do that, and they're going to go to counseling to fix it, and then in fact they do that, then you made the right call, and they can go on to graduate and be a good graduate and learn from that mistake. If, however, they say all those right words, but their behavior is different, then they need to go. And but it's a very serious decision that leaders have to make, because people's lives are at stake here, their futures are at stake, and so I believe you have to. And there's so many various factors to consider that it's a very complicated process. But we take it very seriously. We honestly do. None of us agree with that behavior. However, what we try to do is to see what the future of that person holds, and then make decisions based on, what's right for the individual as well as what's right for the institution. But it's always a tough situation.
Thank you, sir. That was our last question.
That was the last question?